Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Hour 2, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, working towards the weekend. Chris Blair coming up in 15 minutes. We'll talk to Luke Johnson at the bottom of the hour about the New Orleans Saints. I learned something this morning. It's not a great reflection on my keeping up with my job, but I learned something this morning. LSU's football schedule comes out tonight. I didn't know that.
Wait, wasn't already out?
We have the opponents.
Oh,
we don't have the
okay,
dates.
Okay, all right, yeah.
I did not know that until today. So that's good. We'll learn some stuff. The first ever 9-game SEC schedule, and we'll learn what LSU's dates are for the season. Right now, we only have 2 games locked in. We know that LSU will host Clemson in the opener. That's September the 5th. And we know that LSU will play McNeese on October the 3rd. That's all we have. So it would stand to reason LSU will be non-conference around the Clemson game. We have one opponent missing from LSU. We know it's not going to be an FCS opponent because they play McNeese. It wouldn't surprise me to see Louisiana Tech pop up on LSU schedule next year. That announcement's going to be made. Not saying it's Louisiana Tech, but an announcement on LSU's final and 12th opponent will be made in the coming weeks. We know that. But we will learn the dates of LSU's SEC games. And I think there are some things to look at in this scheduling release. One is obviously what everyone – it wouldn't be surprised me if it was one of the first things they talked about on the SC Network release, which, by the way, is at 7 o'clock tonight, Central Time, if you want to watch. When is LSU going to Oxford? Like, that's what everyone is going to be thinking about. And I'll tell you this. Halloween is on a Saturday this year.
No, don't tell me this.
So LSU and Ole Miss have always been Halloween night. It's been jumbled a little bit in recent years, but that was the date. That's when LSU and Ole Miss played. So if you want to have LSU in Oxford, Saturday night, Halloween, October 31st, Billy Cannon, the whole thing. I know that was in Baton Rouge, but the whole thing, you could do it. Now, LSU has traditionally, over the last 20 years, had a bye that week going into Alabama.
Yeah.
Bama's always the 1st of November. LSU's always a bye week on Halloween. It's always been how it's been. But who knows what the SEC wants to do. It wouldn't shock me if they slam that thing all the way up in the front of the season, quite frankly.
All right, I'm going to be real. That's kind of poetic because, Lane Kiffin wanted night games at Ole Miss. So his return would be a night game. That's crazy.
I'll tell you this. If Lane Kiffin wants a night game in Oxford, Mississippi, he's getting one. That game is going to be in prime time, no matter what. So he's going to get that. And then the question comes, where is the bye week? And then here's just a general feeling that I have as far as LSU goes. I think it's likely, in my opinion, that LSU is better at the end of October and into November than they are early on in the season. It's a new coach. It's going to be a new quarterback, whole new offensive system. Your defense is going to have continuity, but you also are going to have to overhaul the entire defense. So I think that LSU is going to be better later in the season under this coaching staff with all the shakeup you're going to see. And so there are some games that I think should be very winnable for LSU in the SEC slate. I think at Arkansas is very winnable. I don't think they're going to have very good players. I don't think they hired a great coach. I think at Arkansas is very winnable. I think at Kentucky is very winnable. I know it's on the road, but Kentucky's in transition. Soups is out. And you bring in a Oregon's coordinator to come in. I don't think they're going to have a great roster. And LSU plays Mississippi State this year at home. I think that's going to be very winnable. I'd love one or two of those to be in September, if I'm being honest. It's great to have them in November too, because you feel like you can win them then. But if you're going to slam September with Clemson, Texas, and at Ole Miss, that could be real bumpy here in Baton Rouge. Again, we don't know who's going to be on these rosters. So if you'd have told me 2 years ago LSU was at Indiana, I'd have jumped for joy, and they'd have probably gotten smashed. So I'm not claiming to know anything. I'm just giving you preliminary feelings as to what I'm kind of looking for in this schedule. You want to throw me in at Kentucky in September? I'd like that. Another thing I feel like you're probably going to get, and I mentioned Arkansas, that's going to be the season finale. Our guy Andrew Hutchinson, Best of Arkansas Sports, did some reporting a couple of weeks ago. I can't verify this, but he said in his reporting that the LSU band has already been booked at a Fayetteville hotel. So LSU knows that's coming. So I think that you're going to see LSU, because you don't play Oklahoma next year. That's been your last 2 years. You don't play them next year. You start to look at other teams on your SEC schedule. You play Alabama, you're not playing them at the end of the season. You play Mississippi State, you're not playing them at the end of the season. You play Texas and Texas A&M, you're not playing either of them at the end of the season. You're at Auburn, you're not playing them at the end of the season. You're at Kentucky, who you could play depending on what Louisville and Kentucky decide to do. Traditionally, they did play that game in September and October. They played at the end of the season the last few years, but I don't think you're going to get that. You're not playing Ole Miss at the end of the season, and you're not playing Tennessee at the end of the season. They generally play Vanderbilt. So you're kind of down to Kentucky and Arkansas, and it just makes too much sense for that to be Arkansas. So I think Arkansas is the end of the season. That means your other winnable ones that I kind of like. And your road schedule is pretty manageable to look at. You're at Arkansas, at Auburn, at Kentucky, at Ole Miss, at Tennessee. Ole Miss and Tennessee, I would figure, would be pretty decent, but I don't think the other are going to scare you terribly. This is one of the years where you play 5 road games. You'll play 4 road games the following year. But I think there are some interesting quirks to this and how it will work. And I'm just curious to see how it all shakes out. Somebody's going to cry foul immediately. And to be fair, when the schedule for 2025 was announced, there was a team that kind of had a right to cry foul based on what their schedule said, and it was Texas A&M this year. And all of a sudden you look up, and they look like they had the easiest schedule in the SEC. There was a stretch where Texas A&M was going to have to play 3 consecutive road games. And it turned out it was against Arkansas, who had fired their coach, LSU, who that made them fire their coach, and Missouri, who wasn't as good as we thought. And you thought that some of the other games, like South Carolina, Florida, could be really tough, and it turned out those teams weren't as good. Now, the South Carolina game went off the rails. We know that. But, like, A&M had a beef because they were getting 3 road games in a row at one point, which seems really, really tough. And it turns out they got the easiest schedule in the SEC by a sizable portion based on how the season actually played out. So we won't know anything for sure coming up tonight. Like, I could take a few things to the bank. Georgia's going to be good next year. They'll have a good team. Beyond that, am I just absolutely stone cold lock with anybody in the SEC? I think Elko will have a good defense and Marcel Reed's back, so A&M should be pretty good, but they got a lot of production to replace. And it's like I've said with South Carolina last year, like I've said with Missouri over the years, like I'm not going to immediately give Mike Elko the credit of like, hey, I know you're going to restock the shelves immediately. Your team will be just as good the next year. Like Saban got that credit, and Kirby's got that credit. And to an extent, like Lane Kiffin kind of earned that in Oxford, where 50 wins in 5 years, top 12 offense every year, like you kind of earned that reputation. That's gone in Oxford now. I can't give Pete Golding that. He might do it, but I can't give him that. So for LSU, I'm looking at some winnable games in September. I think Arkansas will be the closer. Where's the bye week? And I think that's the most fascinating stuff. You know that McNeese kind of represents a little bit of bye there, early October. So you'll keep that in mind. But we'll know LSU's fate at 7 o'clock tonight. We'll certainly write about it at LouisianaSports.net this evening, and we will react to it in the first segment, I'm confident, on tomorrow's show, considering there's not a heck of a lot else going on at this point in LSU football. So, all right, let's take the time out. We'll come back and talk to Chris Blair. That's next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
New sponsor here on the Hunt Palmer Show. They bring you our opening drive every single day. It's Fabry, Chevrolet, and GMC. They're on Highway 61 in St. Francisville. If you're thinking, I know that name, Fabry. Yeah, you know that name, Fabry. They've been in business for 35 years here in Baton Rouge with some other stores. If you're thinking, I know there was a dealership there on 61 in St. Francisville. Well, now it's under new ownership, Fabry Chevrolet GMC. So if you're in the market for a vehicle, I know December is a busy car buying month. Tahoe, very, very popular. They got them. Silverados, if you're looking for a truck, very popular. They got them. On the GMC side, they've got Sierras, they've got Yukons, they've got Denali's. If those are makes, models that you've always wanted to look into, Fabry Chevrolet DMC can help you out there. Highway 61 in St. Francisville. It's the same great family that you've been working with for 35 years. You know them. They're a pillar in our community. And they're just so excited that as of October 1st of this year, they've got this point at Fabry Chevrolet GMC. So take the joint drive to St. Francisville on Highway 61 or check them out online at fabrychevrolet.com. It's fabrychevrolet.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Talk to Luke Johnson about the New Orleans Saints as they get ready for the Carolina Panthers. We'll do that in 15 minutes. For now, let's go to the voice of the Tigers. Chris Blair joins us on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Chris, thanks for the time. How are you?
I'm good, man. Good. Enjoying a little bit of a break here and getting ready for a big hoops matchup. Doubleheader on Saturday over in the Big Easy.
It's going to be fun in the Smoothie King Center coming up on Saturday night. I want to talk about some of the LSU football players that are mentioned for some awards over the last couple of days. Mansour Delane, a finalist for the Thorpe Award. That'll be announced on Saturday night. Of course, LSU's got a rich tradition of having folks win that award and be finalists as well. He's late comer here, his final year of college eligibility, but he had a heck of a go. What did you see from old number 4 this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. I mean, he's the real deal. I mean, you know, when you look back and break down film and you talk to the coaches and they talk about how nobody wanted to throw his way, I mean, it was for obvious reasons. And it seemed like more times than not, when they did, bad things happened to the opponent. So, you know, again, I think he's the best cornerback in the country. And, yeah, maybe I'm biased. But I would think that, and the good news for Mansour is that there's a bunch of front office people and NFL offices all over the country that would probably agree with me. So whether or not he wins the Thorpe, deservedly, I think he should. But if he doesn't, he's going to be a big winner here in a couple of months.
And you've got another one on the other side, DJ Pickett, who on 3 named the National Defensive True Freshman of the Year. When teams want to go away from Mansour Delane, that kind of leaves limited options. He was one of them, and I think he stood pretty tall the last month of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I know a lot of people saw the announcement today on the new partnership with Nike and this Blue Ribbon Elite NIL program. And I tell you, I was happy to see DJ Pickett's name on that list. But again, I just think the ceiling is so monumental for him. He's just going to get so much better. I mean, we watched him develop as the season went on. I mean, he was highly touted coming in, but to watch what he has done, and then due to injury and just some changes and probably what he did in practice, earned the ability to really be, on the field quite a bit down the last couple of weeks of the season. So another good one in a line of good ones, as you said a moment ago, at LSU, certainly in the defensive backfield.
Trey'Dez Green was honored as an All-SEC selection by the coaches, and that's a guy that I'm excited to see in Lane Kiffin's offense. We've seen one dimension of his game, which is jump high and catch it. I think there's probably more to unlock there. What did you see from Trey'Dez Green in his sophomore season?
Yeah, I think so. And again, also glad he's part of the Nike Blue Ribbon Elite as well. That means good things, I think, moving forward. But, I think you and I talked about it, I want to say midway through the season. There were a couple of times where they actually used Trey'Dez middle of the field or up the seam, and he was able to show what he can do after the catch as opposed to, as you say, which is not a bad thing to be able to just go up in the end zone and get it over everybody else. But I think we saw some flashes of his athleticism and what he can do, with the ball in his hands, just from his sheer athleticism, not just his height. And again, I think the future is going to be great for him. And, as much as I would have loved to have seen him up and down the floor in basketball, I think we're starting to see with the awards and the accolades and the attention that he may have made the right decision for his future.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. No losing 20 pounds running on the basketball court this offseason for Trey'Dez. Let's try to keep that weight on for next football season. LSU chosen to play in the Texas Bowl against Houston coming up on the 27th of December. You've watched college football your whole life, and bowl games have been a big part of that forever. What do you think about the present of bowl games and the future of bowl games at this point?
Well, this is just my opinion, and some people will agree and some people won't, and that's okay. I just think that we're kind of putting off the inevitable here, and we have for the last so many years, certainly since the establishment of the college football playoff. And I understand the tradition. I understand the bowl committees. I understand what it means to those cities and those venues. I get all of that. But we're kind of putting off the inevitable, which is they're going to expand the playoff to what number, and when they stop, who knows. Money will dictate that, just as it has the NCAA basketball tournament, which has continued to grow, and they still talk about growing it even bigger. And so I think, again, maybe these venues will be utilized in an expanded college football playoff. But I think we're just, again, kicking the can down the road. Eventually, a lot of these bowls are going to go away, whether you add 16 teams, whether you eventually go to 24. But the here and now is the bowls are still in place outside of the college football playoff. I think it is foolish for any school basically to not take advantage of the opportunity to get an extra set of practices. And I know that the portal window will open, and there'll be guys who practice for all these teams leading up to the bowl, and then come January, February, they'll all move. That's just part of it. But I think it was silly for schools to say, yeah, no, we're good with the bowl. I think it's smart for LSU to do it. I know fans certainly wanted to be in the college football playoff. I certainly wanted to be in the college football playoff. But those names that we mentioned, Hunt, that we were just discussing, the Trades Greens and the DJ Pickett's of the world, I think it's a benefit to LSU and for Lane Kiffin and his staff once they're all back in Baton Rouge and working towards a common goal, that they got that chance to at least see it, go back, watch the film, whatever the case may be. So go over there, put a good team together, and hopefully try to get a win against a Houston team that I know personally is really invested in playing well on the 27th. So hopefully LSU is going to match it and supersede that.
Yeah, it looks to me like on paper, at least, that both teams are taking it relatively seriously. There will be opt-outs here and there, but I think it's not going to be lopsided like LSU Kansas State, or on the other side, LSU Purdue, were in back-to-back years where that was just not any fun to watch on either side. Get up by 70, down by 40 with no quarterback. Just not a lot of entertainment value in that. Hopefully this one is better. Let's talk a little hoops. Obviously very disappointing on Sunday in Fort Worth. I was excited to sit down and watch it, and it was just never really competitive. Was that just a 2-hour thing, or is that indicative of LSU maybe beating up on some inferior teams early on?
Well, I mean, I think the jury's still out, Hunt, and I'd say you probably agree with me in the sense that LSU had not really faced a team like Texas Tech and a team like they will face on Saturday with SMU. But it's a trend that I know is a little concerning, simply because even with the win at Boston College, and I credit LSU and I credit Coach McMahon. I mean, they did it with defense and rebounding down the stretch in the second half, and then really put it to work in overtime. But it wasn't a great performance offensively. And then it was a dreadful performance offensively this past time out against Texas Tech. And I think it was started because we all kind of felt like the strength of LSU through the first 7-8 games was the fact that they had really good backcourt play and really good frontline play. But it didn't come to the forefront on Saturday against a team that also could match them. Christian Anderson was a beast, and it was very early on that we had no answer for him, especially on the offensive end. And I think, Texas Tech did what good teams and good coaches do. They adjusted very early on to how they were going to approach Mike Nwoko and the rest of the front line for LSU. They made things very difficult, A, to get to the paint, and B, to be able to operate around the rim. I think that will continue again, just, getting the study on SMU the last couple of days. Their backcourt is phenomenal. I mean, the numbers just come jumping off the page. I mean, B.J. Edwards, the former Tennessee Volunteer, his freshman year is setting records. I mean, unbelievable records, triple doubles, almost on a regular basis. They got the kid from New Orleans, Pierre, who's a scoring machine. So I think I'm not going to say that SMU and Texas Tech are carbon copies, but the same concerns I would have going into the Red Raiders game last week in a neutral site is kind of the same concerns I have if you're LSU going into this matchup with SMU. And I would add, I think SMU as a team is probably a tad bit better. Now, I say all that to say LSU we've seen can put the ball in the cylinder. I have argued for years, having grown up around the sport, that even if you're on the floor by yourself, it's hard to shoot 55, 60% or higher. So we know LSU can put the ball in the cylinder. They're going to have to do it Saturday because I think SMU is a team that will love to push this game to the 90s, just the way Texas Tech did. And LSU, I think, has the capability, but they've got to be much more efficient on the offensive end. And they really can't have, DJ be kind of taken out. Things were very hard for him last week against Texas Tech. Didn't have the flow, and LSU never had the rhythm, as you pointed out.
So you kind of answered it there, but I'll drill down a little bit deeper on, how important do you think perimeter shooting is going to be for this LSU offense?
I think it's huge because, again, I think we got a blessing that Nwoko in and around the rim is as good as he is. I didn't know that. I mean, I watched him at Mississippi State, and I thought he was a great rim protector. I think he was a big body, but they just didn't utilize him as a scorer. I think LSU does that, and that's a good thing. But I think that the perimeter shooting has to be there. And look, if you look at the criticism over the last so many years for LSU basketball, it's been the inability to have perimeter shooting, consistent perimeter shooting. And everybody knows that. Coach McMahon knows that. I mean, that's why he went and got the pieces that he got this year. Is Saturday's offensive output and the game against Boston College an anomaly? I tend to think so at this point, Hunt, and the reason is because they had not faced a team that could go toe-to-toe with them in those categories statistically. Does it mean they can't play with them? No, it means they've got to adjust and really be able to handle the uptick in competition. Will that happen? We'll get a little bit of a picture of it come Saturday, but that's why I'm still holding out, that I'm not forgetting the fact that this team can score the basketball. I think they've got to get adjusted to a physical style game because they're going to see it Saturday and they're going to see it every single game in the SEC. And while the SEC may not be as talented overall as they are a year ago, it's still a league that is physical, and they're physical guards. They get right into you, chest to chest. They make things difficult to operate. So I'm still optimistic that LSU just has to make that type of adjustment. In fact, that's what Coach McMahon told us after the game Saturday. He said, these guys have to understand it's not always going to be Tarleton State that's on the other side of the floor.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that it was a bit of an aberration with Tech making 8 of 9 threes to start and LSU not being able to throw it in the ocean. But they got to prove something on Saturday against SMU, or they're going to lose a lot of confidence, I think, with the fan base at this point. So we'll see. LSU and SMU coming up from the Smoothie King Center, part of a doubleheader down there in New Orleans. What's coming up on the network over the next 4 weeks? I know they got the holidays, bowl game, Matt McMahon show coming up. So what's coming up?
Yeah, well, we'll do more. We're in the overlap season still, but we'll still start to transition more to basketball. But yeah, January 5th, the first week of January, we'll start having our weekly shows with Coach McMahon and Coach Kim Mulkey week to week at TJ Rib. So again, invite everybody to come out there, and we do allow people to ask questions. You have to submit them, but if you've got a question for either of the coaches, feel free to come to TJ's. I certainly love it when people give me questions. Makes my job a lot easier.
We'll see first week of January. We'll catch up next week. Thanks, Chris.
You got it.
Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers. I'll talk a little bit more about LSU and SMU tomorrow. I just think it's a big game. I do. I thought last Sunday was very interesting going into the game, and we know what the result was. This is important for LSU. You go out there and you get your butt kicked on Saturday, you're going to have red alarms going off everywhere. If you hold your own, win the game, I think you might have steadied the ship, and you can look at Sunday and go, that's an aberration. I know that there are a lot of people who say, well, I don't even care right now. Just talk about recruiting class and talk about baseball, like whatever. But I'm hopeful that LSU's basketball team can make the next couple of months interesting. I'm hopeful. Didn't say I guaranteed it. Didn't say that I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful. And I think Saturday goes a little bit of ways to determining who you are and what you are. So we'll see. I'll come back, talk some Saints with Luke Johnson next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Look, January 1st, a lot of renewals. And at this point, you're getting late in that process for a renewal. But if you've got a commercial property and casualty renewal coming up, you would like a second option, you're not thrilled with the terms that have come back, the Howland Insurance Group is happy to help you out with this. They are experts technically. If you want to pick up the phone and call the Howland Insurance Group and say, hey, I need you to cut 20% off this premium, it's killing me, that's probably not realistic, not in keeping the coverages that you need. But if you want to call them and say, hey, I'm not sure how this reads or if it's actually placed correctly, I'm not sure if I have what I need, they can make sure you have that. They can make sure your coverages are right. They are with the proper carriers. They're an independent broker. That means they've got contracts with dozens of carriers. They can shop and make sure that your coverage is right for the right premium. They know that premium is important to their clients. It's important to them too. But making sure that you're not paying a good premium and then not covered, that is the worst. That'll never happen at the Howland Insurance Group. Contact Jonathan Carbo and his team there. They're here in Baton Rouge. They can help you out statewide. They will make sure your commercial program is right where it needs to be at the price it needs to be. It's the Howland Insurance Group. They're online at highlandig.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday shows brought to you by Sagrera Farms, premium Angus beef, some of the best beef in the country, right here just outside Baton Rouge at Sagrera Farms. Let's talk some Saints. They'll take on the Panthers coming up on Sunday. Luke Johnson covers the black and gold for The Advocate and NOLA.com. Joins us on the Jim's Farms hotline. Luke, how we doing?
Doing fantastic, my man. Thank you for having me on.
It is our pleasure. That was solid effort back last week in Tampa. What was your biggest takeaway from it?
I mean, I think that was their best win of the season, which, I know is not really saying a whole lot since I have three options to choose from here, but let's call it their best performance of the season, top to bottom. I think special teams still a work in progress for this team, but you start this game off with a 55-yard kick return from Mason Tipton, who I think has done a nice job as a returner since they traded for Rashid Shaheed. You get an opening drive touchdown for only the second time all year, first time in forever, first time since September for that team. And then it's just it just continued kind of down that track. Obviously, we're still waiting on this team to put together a really, truly explosive offensive performance. But when you're playing in the elements and you got a rookie quarterback going up against a team that has dominated the division for 4 years, and he makes just a crazy play in the fourth quarter to give you the go-ahead touchdown. I went and looked at it after the game. They've had 30 drives inside the final 10 minutes of the fourth quarter since Drew Brees retired. 30 opportunities to take a lead with a touchdown, and they've had 5 touchdowns in those 30 drives. Right? This was the 5th, and this is only the second time that they've actually held on to that go-ahead score and won the game. That feels meaningful. It feels meaningful to have Shuck converting a couple third downs on that 4-minute drive. Obviously, they weren't able to close out the clock, but he's extending that clock by an extra minute and a half, 2 minutes by hitting Devon Bailey twice on that drive. It's incredibly encouraging to see the defense, which I think has played very well over the last month or so, to shut the game down on the final drive. Tampa needs to go 80 yards for a touchdown. They don't even get 10. I just think there was so much from that game that you have to feel really good about it in the future. Obviously, this Saints team is not going to the playoffs this year. They've been eliminated for a couple of weeks now. But, there's some real stuff here that you can feel very, very confident about going into 2026.
Stick with Shuck. It's obviously the biggest storyline. Do you feel he is doing enough from inside the pocket? I love the scramble plays, and he's got that in the bag, but you got to win from the pocket. How do you feel that's progressing?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he is not a finished product yet. But I think the in-structure plays are there for him. And I think he's done a nice job of that. I just referenced those 2 third-down conversions. Both of those plays, he's standing tall in the pocket. He's got pressure in his face, pressure down by his feet. On one of those throws to Bailey, he's got, his arm gets clipped by a defensive lineman, and he still makes the play. The stuff out of structure, out of pocket, the scramble stuff, is stuff that you need quarterbacks to do in the modern NFL. Like Peyton Manning is one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history. Like if you drop them into today's NFL, you'd be limited because of what you need quarterbacks to do in this era. But like you also need to be able to win from the pocket. And that is something that I think is a clear upgrade between Shuck and like say Spencer Rattler earlier this year, is like the within structure plays are there and can be made. It can be better, yes, but like you can see the stuff there now 5 starts into his career. Like I think that's going to be something that we see continue to progress.
How do you explain how well the Saints ran the ball on Sunday against Tampa?
You know, I don't want to make this like the Tyler Shuck segment, but I do think that opens up stuff for the rest of the team, right? When you have a quarterback who's able to take a read option around the left end for a 34-yard touchdown, or you know, he had an 11-yard scramble earlier, or 11-yard design run earlier in the game. Like that does force the defense to account for him in the run game. And I think, you know, as soon as you saw him hit that big run with Shuck for a touchdown, like the very next drive, Devin Neal's getting a 21-yarder. You know, I think that helps. I don't think this is something that we're going to be able to count on over the rest of the year, just because that's, I think, only the 4th time this year the Saints have topped 100 yards on the ground. Their interior line is still kind of a mess. I think their scheme could really use take it under the hood, look at it under a magnifying glass, whatever like term you want to use for their run scheme. I think they need to take a hard look at it this offseason because it just has not worked this year. And I don't think you can really just say like, oh, our running backs aren't explosive. I think there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. But I think the threat of Shuck as a runner opens stuff up for the other guys, which is why I'd like to see like a little bit more of it, right? Just more consistently using that aspect of Tyler's game. Not a lot more of it. Obviously, he had 4 season-ending injuries in college, and a lot of that was when he was in run-heavy offenses. Like, I don't think he needs to be carrying the ball 10, 11 times a game. But, like, 3 or 4 design runs, I think I feel pretty good about it, especially if the messaging to Shuck is clear, where you're saying, hey, like, it's – Jeff Duncan said this on our podcast the other day. It's touchdown, first down, or get down, you know? Don't try to go out and play hero ball. I think if they can do that, it'll open more stuff up for their offense. That includes the passing game too.
Luke Johnson's our guest, covers the Saints for theadvocate.NOLA.com with us on Thursdays. All right, let's shift forward to Carolina. Obviously, the Saints got a nice win in Charlotte. That's when I kind of thought Carolina was not good at all, and I don't feel that way anymore. How do you feel about this Panthers team?
I have no idea what to make of them, man.
Okay.
Like, I really don't. I mean, they go out. They got really manhandled in that Saints game, and it's not the first time that they've like been beaten by a bad team this year. But then, and then they beat the Rams the last time out. They've beaten the Packers. Like they've beaten some really, really good teams this year, and I just like they feel to me like a complete Jekyll and Hyde team, which kind of makes a lot of sense. They get a second-year head coach. They got a really young roster. Who knows what it's going to be week to week. But I think this specific Saints team has kind of played them tough, or even you go back to week 1 of last year where they beat the brakes off them. I think Bryce Young has kind of struggled against this defense. Like I could see this being a competitive game. I could also see the Panthers being like, oh, like the NFC South is up for us, and we're going to put together a good game plan and go out and beat the brakes off the Saints. Like there's such a wide range of outcomes for this game because like the Panthers have just been like an impossible team to predict from week to week.
Brandon Staley's group's getting a little bit better. They were obviously great in Charlotte, and they were very good last week in the rain in Tampa. What's object number 1 against this Carolina team?
I mean, with them, I think it always has to be, it's got to start with stopping their run game, which is exactly what they did in that Week 10 game. Going into that game, I mean, I'm sure everybody remembers Rico Dowdle was like the story of the league at that point. He's averaging like 130 rushing yards per game in like his 5 games going into that game, and they shut him down. And when you force Bryce Young to beat you, I think that's a matchup you want to be in. But I think they've kind of turned it back into more of a committee approach at running back, and I think this Saints defense is well suited to stopping a guy like Rico Dowdle. They're a physical unit that tackles pretty well. I think when we've seen them have a little bit more issues against the run, it's against the more explosive types of backs. So if Chuba Hubbard is the lead back in this game, maybe they can find a little bit more success there. The Panthers, I mean, and make this to where it's not just like, hey, Bryce Young, go beat this secondary that's allowing 130 yards per game in the last 5 games. I think that to me is the key to this. Is they gotta keep that ground game under control and force Bryce Young to beat him.
How many do you think they win in the last 4?
I'm gonna go 2.
Okay.
I'm gonna go 2-2 down the stretch. I think that feels right. I think get him to 5 wins, which is I think right about what I had him pegged at the beginning of the season. So, look, to me, it's just about like, does Tyler Shuck continue to show he's the guy? Like, can you feel good about bits and pieces of this team to know you have stuff to build around going into the future? That's all that's important. I don't think the win total really matters at the end of the season. Just show me that you have some really good foundational pieces.
You can follow him on Twitter @ByLukeJohnson. You can read all his stuff in the Advocate and NOLA.com. He'll be there in the Dome on Sunday. Saints and Panthers from New Orleans. Thanks, Luke.
My pleasure, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Sure will. That is Luke Johnson with us every single Thursday. Our Thursday show is brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Look, I was talking to Sean today, as I mentioned in the first hour, and look, the herd density in Louisiana, in the country, is at the same inventory levels it was at in about the 50s. You know that our population's increased significantly since then. So you look at supply and demand, beef prices going up. It happens. If you are going to pay a premium price, which everyone is for beef, well, why don't you get a premium product? That's what Sagrera Farms will offer you. I tell you all the time, the IMF score is how you see whether or not a product is prime. If it's 0 to 3, you're talking about select. If it's 3 to 6, which 60% of the beef is, that's choice. Talking about north of 8, that's prime. Sagrera Farms has cows on their farm right now, 13, 15, 17, 20. More than twice the standard of prime. So fill your freezer. Get a whole cow, get a side, get a quarter, and make sure that you've got some of the best beef at a reasonable price in your freezer whenever you need it. Fillets, ribeyes, strips, flanks, ground beef. It's all there from Sagrera Farms. They bring you our Thursday shows each and every week. Take one more time out, close it out next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Bank and Trust, First American Bank and Trust, started up in 1910, still here 115 years later. You know, you've got big national options for banking. We know that. And you may have an issue and you make a phone call and it's to some call center in Atlanta or San Francisco or wherever the case may be. And maybe you get somebody on the phone. Maybe you get a recording. You're not really sure who makes a decision for that national bank. Well, I don't know. But I can tell you at First American National Bank and Trust, First American Bank and Trust, is you're going to get a local decision made. You're going to speak to someone local when you make that phone call. You stop into one of their 25 locations throughout southeastern Louisiana, you're going to deal with people who are right here in your community. Doesn't matter if you're Dutchtown, Hammond, St. John Parish, St. James Parish, Tangipahoa Parish, St. Tammany. I was down there in Orleans. First American Bank and Trust down there as well. And you might say, well, why would I do business with a local bank? Do they really have the resources I need? They absolutely do. They have 25 locations. So if you're looking for a commercial loan, you're looking for a personal loan, residential loan, First American Bank and Trust should be the phone call that you make. As I mentioned, all their decisions are made locally by people in our community. It's First American Bank and Trust.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Closing things up here, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Got a final from the Superdome down in New Orleans. Haynesville 39, Mangum 37. Golden Tornado, first state title since 2014. Isaiah Washington just signed on the dotted line with LSU. Has a couple of touchdowns on offense. Also a pick six for Isaiah Washington in that game. When I was a kid up in North Louisiana, Haynesville was an absolute power in 1A football. And it's been a minute since they've gotten back and been able to win a state championship, but they do so on the back of Isaiah Washington. They beat Mangum, as I mentioned, 39-37. So off and running down there from the Dome. Haynesville, a state champion. So congrats to the Tours down in the Big Easy. All right, take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Take it or leave it.
Presented to you by Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer, crafted by America's oldest brewery. Today's hottest stories in sports, news, and sometimes even Hunt's life. The question is, will he take them or leave them?
18 state titles for Haynesville. They are a power. It's been a minute, though. Light by Yingling, next generation of light beer, getting close to the weekend. If you're ready to start your weekend a little early, how about doing it with America's next generation of light beer? It's Flight by Yingling. It's only got 95 calories, 2.6 carbs, plus packs all that flavor you're looking for in a cold, cold beer. The oldest brewery in America, Yingling. It's Flight by Yingling, the next generation of light beer.
Okay, let's start it off with 36-year-old Cam Newton said on the 4 from 1 with Cam Newton show that 44-year-old Phillip Rivers signing with the Colts was, and I quote, almost like a slap to my face. Should Cam Newton have gotten the call? Take it or leave it?
I'll leave it.
Leave it alone.
As Phillip Rivers said when they asked him how much he weighs, he's like, I don't know. I hadn't weighed myself. I'm not going to be running anywhere anyway.
Yeah.
Cam kind of relied on a little bit of dynamic athleticism in his football playing career, which may not quite be there at this point.
Oh, no, it's gone.
I'm not here suggesting that I know Phillip Rivers is a better quarterback today than Cam Newton. I don't think either one of them needs to be playing quarterback in the NFL today. But I don't know if it's a slap in the face to Cam. I think he's just maybe playing it up for the Cam.
Yeah, enjoy your free time, Cam. You don't need to be going out there. So, staying on the Phillip Rivers train, Denver Broncos quarterback Sam Ehlinger turned down the opportunity to return to the Indianapolis Colts as the team searched for a solution to replace Daniel Jones. Ehlinger, who spent his first 4 seasons of his NFL career with the Colts before joining the Broncos practice squad, he told the Denver Post that basically he will weigh in decisions, but I'd rather stay with Denver as the practice squad quarterback. So being a practice squad quarterback over the starting quarterback, take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave that. I mean,
leave it alone.
You're not going to make anybody think that you can be a starter or backup on the practice squad.
Never.
Your only chance to convince anybody of it is to go play.
Go play.
And I don't know if you're going to be able to play or not in Indianapolis. Maybe you can win and play the last 2 or 3 games, but you're not going to get much. Maybe a Super Bowl ring if you're on the practice squad for Denver.
Maybe,
but if you're looking to play, then you probably need to go play and not practice.
I think this might have been one of the first times we've seen a practice squad guy reject a roster spot and just stay on the practice squad for a team. I don't think I've ever seen that before. So Sam Ehlinger said, see you later to Indianapolis. So Oklahoma City Thunder, who I kind of hate at the moment, is
I was going to ask you about the Thunder.
Oh, yeah. Well, because the time is now. So they're currently sitting at 24-1 after smashing the Phoenix Suns last night. OKC hasn't lost in 5 weeks. So they're on pace currently to have 70-plus wins this season, if not break the league's single-season record at 73 wins set by the Golden State Warriors 2015-2016. So will OKC win 74 games this season? Take it or leave it?
I'm going to leave it. Just by the math, I got to leave it. But goodness gracious.
Yeah, 24
that effort last night. That's like varsity on JV is what it looked like. Now, the court's very
scary.
ugly. I don't want to look at that court.
Yeah.
But the team is not. That's a nasty group.
It's scary, man. And
Are they better on offense or defense? I think they're better on defense, but it's close.
They play defense like a college team. Like, it's full court press. They're pressing you. They're trying to cause turnovers. But what's really scary about all this, Hunt, is that the fact that they have a couple picks in the lottery because of the Clippers that landed them Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, almost 10 years ago, coming up on that. So, yeah, you got a team that might repeat and still get a top 10 pick. Sam Presti, genius of geniuses. So
he's the best.
He's the best, and they're 24-1. That speaks.
Gail
enough for
should hire
itself.
him. Give him a call, Gail. Sam Presti.
He would hang up. Don't even call
me. We
my
got
phone,
better
Gail.
food than Oklahoma City. What are they famous for?
We got better food, but you're getting the food after the Saints. So now you get the scraps of what the Saints get. So stay over there, Sam. We don't come get ruined. So that's it for take it or leave it.
Mick Cronin's in rare mid-season form. UCLA's head coach. They're playing at 8:30 p.m. against Gonzaga, and Mick Cronin's quote was, "Don't get me started. Trying to stay positive, but it's ridiculous. Why don't we just play at midnight? I mean, what are we doing? It's so disappointing. It's so crazy. Let's do it at 11:30. My dad's real happy. Mick doesn't like playing at 8:30.
What? I mean, well, because they're on the West Coast. So he's talking about like for the East Coast people that are trying to watch or whatnot.
I don't know what he's complaining about. It seems like a reasonable tip time.
You're on the West Coast, bro. What you expect?
Mick's mad.
Yeah,
Mick stays mad. He's mad a lot. Good coach, though. That's it for us on a Thursday, brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. If you missed any of the show, talked about LSU's new partnership with Nike, talked about Frank Wilson and whether or not he should remain on staff to those that hunt on LSU. We talked about Luke Johnson, about the Saints and what they can do coming up on Sunday against the Panthers that hunt on Saints. LSU's schedule coming out tonight on SEC Network at 7 o'clock. We'll react to that on tomorrow's show. That's up for us, though. Matt's going to drive you home next one after Further View. We'll see you tomorrow for a Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Lifetime Roofing, Baton Rouge-based roofing company. Service the entire state, though, so no matter where you are in our listening area in the state of Louisiana, even over in Houston, Lifetime Roofing can help you out. Check out the website, lifetimeroofingla.com. They can certainly come do a free inspection. Just look and see if there's anything that may need to be done to your roof. It could be a repair, could be a replacement. They can help you figure that out and give you that peace of mind at Lifetime Roofing. Your home is potentially your biggest investment. People that live under that roof, pretty important to you. Take your roofing seriously. The folks at Lifetime Roofing absolutely do. They offer roof replacements, repairs, tune-ups, as I mentioned, and they're actively hiring one of the only legitimate W-2 roofing companies in the entire state of Louisiana. It comes with benefits, 401k. So if you're looking for a job, got some experience roofing, and want to get into that, Lifetime Roofing can help you out with that. Check them out online at lifetimeroofingla.com, lifetimeroofingla.com.